Hola. I'm just waiting for this goo to become something else. Did you know a caterpillar turns into goo inside its chrysalis? And the goo is what becomes a butterfly. Weird, right? How one thing can become something totally different. Become is a word we use a lot in English, but if you think about it, the concept of becoming something is pretty abstract. And that can make it even more intimidating to talk about in Spanish. Discussing abstract ideas is already hard enough in your native language, but to tackle them in a new language can seem pretty overwhelming. It might sound scary, but don't worry. We're going to teach you a few simple rules that will show you exactly how to properly say to become in Spanish. You'll see a huge difference in your fluency just with this one lesson because this concept is actually very crucial to everyday speech. Why? Because all conversations are either going to be talking about the past, the present, or the future. We use this one singular term, become, in a lot of different contexts for English, but when speaking in Spanish, there are actually several different words that mean to become. Picking the right one just depends on the context of your sentence. And in this video, we'll cover the 5 ways you can express to become in Spanish. Number 1, volverse. Number 2, convertirse en. Number 3, hacerse. Number 4, ponerse. And number 5, llegar a ser. By the end of this video, you'll become someone who knows how to use become in Español. So what does it mean to become? It can mean coming to be, like he is becoming a teacher. Or it can mean undergoing a change or development, like she was becoming angry. Because the concept of becoming has such a wide variety of applications, there are many ways to say it in Spanish. Learning the proper way to communicate which type of becoming you're referring to will help you become a more well-rounded and specific Spanish speaker. Now, before we get started, notice that with this concept, you'll probably be using past and future tense a lot. So, if you need to brush up on your past and future tense Spanish skills, no sweat. We've got detailed tutorials on all you need to know. Check out our video on mastering past tense in Spanish to get a great head start. Okay, now onto our list. Number 1, volverse. Volverse is a verb you use when somebody or something turns into or becomes something different. It could refer to a sudden or gradual transition, physical or mental. When you use volverse, you'll usually follow it up with a noun or adjective. Let's see some examples. Después de la pérdida de sus padres, Karen se volvió una persona solitaria. After losing her parents, Karen became a lonely person. You can see how volverse makes sense in this situation because the sentence discusses an emotional transition. Now, let's take a look at another example. Él solía ser una persona resentida, pero ahora se ha vuelto un tipo muy amigable y positivo. He used to be a bitter person, but now he has become a very friendly and positive guy. Once again, we can see that a person went from having one disposition to a completely different one, making the use of volverse appropriate here. Next, we'll take a look at a verb you can use when a change is a bit more dramatic. Number 2, convertirse en. Convertirse en typically indicates a feeling of evolution or a significant dramatic change. The verb transformarse en also has a similar meaning, but it's a bit less common. For both of these words, they can be used to refer to physical or mental changes. For example, después de algunos días, la torpe oruga se transformó en una hermosa mariposa, which translates to, after a few days, the clumsy caterpillar became a beautiful butterfly. And to use convertirse en during a conversation, you might say something like, La última vez que vio a su hijo era tan solo un niño. Ahora, después de todos estos años, se ha convertido finalmente en un hombre. Which means the last time she saw her son, he was just a kid. Now, after all these years, he has finally become a man. If you can remember that the two verbs have very similar meanings, then you can confidently start using convertirse en and transformarse en like a pro. Number 3, hacerse. If you think about the examples we've seen so far, they all can refer to changes that happen involuntarily. You grow older without consciously trying to. You become happy or sad or mad without putting in effort to do so. But with hacerse, you can indicate a deliberate or voluntary change in identity or affiliation. It's commonly used to highlight the moment that you acquire an essential characteristic. What's an essential characteristic? Think of any trait that you would use ser to describe instead of estar. If you need a refresher on the difference between ser and estar, we've got just the lesson for you. Check out our video on 5 common mistakes that beginner Spanish students make, which has a whole section on how not to confuse ser and estar. Once you do, you'll find it much easier to correctly use hacerse in your Spanish conversations. For now, know that some of the topics you'll typically use hacerse to address include professions, religions, ideology, and money. For example, you might tell your friend, ellos obtuvieron una absurda suma de dinero vendiendo esa aplicación para citas. Se han hecho ricos. They got a ridiculous sum of money by selling that dating app. They've become rich. That level of money is a pretty dramatic change, and the people you're talking about are likely to hold the status of being rich for a long time. So, hacerse is the best verb to use here. Let's take a look at a question you might ask with this word. ¿Cómo podemos hacernos miembros del club de ajedrez? This translates to, how can we become a member of the chess club? Because a membership of a club is a long-term commitment that will, in a way, become part of your identity, you should use hacerse in this situation. Hacerse is also commonly used with some expressions. These include becoming an adult, becoming friends, becoming famous, becoming obvious, and becoming old. If you'd like to see specific sentence examples for each of these concepts, check out our full article linked in the description below. Remember, if you want to learn how to speak Spanish, make sure to check out BaseLang.com, where you can get access to unlimited one-on-one Spanish classes with native speaking teachers, all via Zoom. Number 4, ponerse. Ponerse is a word that's used for things that are not permanent. When you think of ponerse, think of a sudden or temporary change. This can be physical, mental, or just a healthy change. As you'll see, it often refers to words related to moods or things actioned by someone. Common emotional states you'll hear used with this verb are triste, alegre, agresivo, emocional, and sentimental. On the other hand, common physical states you might use ponerse for include rojo, blanco, amarillo, flaco, gordo, and enfermo. With all these physical states just listed, keep in mind that these are the masculine forms and can be made feminine by replacing the O at the end with an A when necessary. Now, let's see some examples. Adriana se pone roja cuando su novio le dice cariñito. Adriana blushes when her boyfriend calls her sweetie. Ayer, los niños se pusieron enfermos y no pudieron ir al colegio. The kids became sick yesterday and they couldn't go to school. The verb ponerse also works as a fixed expression, such as in the following sentence, las chicas se pusieron muy flacas porque estaban a dieta. The girls got really thin because they went on a diet. Oh, and one more thing, 2 common phrases you'll see this verb used in are ponerse caro, which means to become expensive, and ponerse de moda, which means to become fashionable or to be in. Ponerse is a versatile word that's super great to add to your vocabulary. Number 5, llegar a ser. Llegar a ser implies that somebody has worked to become something different. In other words, it didn't just happen. It required a personal effort to become something or to reach that goal. For instance, you can explain to your friend, Isabel llegó a ser la doctora más famosa de Bogotá después de trabajar muy duro en el hospital. This translates to, Isabel became the most famous doctor in Bogotá after working hard in the hospital. Or if you're interviewing a corporate executive you really admire, you may find yourself asking, ¿Qué se necesita para llegar a ser el presidente de la compañía? What does it take to become the president of the company? And just one final example, for the fun of it. Si estudias español diariamente, llegarás a ser un hablante excepcional del idioma. Did you catch that one? It means if you study enough Spanish on a daily basis, you will become an outstanding speaker of the language. And that statement couldn't be more true. So if you want to really hone your Spanish skills so you can get out there and have some real conversations with native speakers, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We've got some great lessons coming up that you definitely don't want to miss. As for this lesson, that's it. Great job learning all 5 verbs in Spanish that mean to become. Are you ready to put your skills to the test? Let's try 3 quick practice questions to see if you've got the hang of it. Number 1, if you wanted to say that you became very sick last year in Caracas, how would you conjugate ponerse in the yo form for the sentence? If you answered, me puse muy enfermo el año pasado en Caracas, then you are correct. All right, next one. Number 2, if you wanted to say that your friend Julia becomes crazy every time she hears her kids screaming in the house, how would you conjugate volverse in the sentence? If you answered, Julia se vuelve loca cada vez que escucha a sus hijos gritando en la casa, then great job, you are 100% correct. Okay, and finally, number 3, if you wanted to say that Leonardo and his brother will become great footballers in the Spanish league, how would you conjugate llegar a ser in the simple future tense for the sentence? Ooh, if you answered Leonardo y su hermano llegarán a ser grandes futbolistas de la Liga Española, then you've got it exactly right. If you got some or all of these practice exercises right, you should be so proud. You're on your way to mastering the concept of saying to become in Español. If you struggled with these a little bit, no worries at all. Feel free to go back and review this lesson or read the full guide linked in the description below to get more clarity on these 5 verbs. There are also a lot more practice questions with answers included for you to do in the full article, so definitely check it out to solidify your skills. And if you want to master conversational skills, why not schedule your first class with a BaseLang teacher today? At BaseLang.com, you get access to unlimited one-on-one Spanish classes with native-speaking teachers, all via Zoom. Try your first week for only $1. Knowing how to say to become in Spanish is great because these words are like the glue that can hold your sentences together. But of course, when talking about becoming anything, you'll need to know the words for what something or someone is actually becoming in the first place. Learning your vocabulary words for emotions is a perfect next step in your Spanish journey. So be sure to check out our emotions in Spanish video next. Thank you for joining me in this lesson and see you in the next one.